Most guys are starting their day off wrong, and it's causing them to lose out on so much productivity just because they're making one small mistake. And the insidious part about it is that it doesn't seem all that important. Just taking some time to listen to some music or watch some content on social media or just like check some notification. But from personal experience, because this has happened to me so many different times, it literally just happened to me yesterday. When you keep doing this, it takes and saps away so much productivity from you. It essentially fries your brain and makes it almost impossible to do the harder work tasks that are actually the most productive and give you the most value. This literally happened to me even yesterday. I just got done recording a video, and after I got done, I ended up uploading it into my video editor so I could edit it, of course. And during that processing time, it just took a few minutes. So just to kill time, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to listen to some music just to kill time because, I don't have anything else to do. And literally that one decision, it made everything else, all the other habits that I had to do throughout the day, just so much harder to do. And again, it doesn't seem like doing something like that should have that drastic of an effect. But the problem is when you overstimulate yourself, or you just stimulate yourself with these things, with technology or drugs or whatever, when you do this, it makes doing the less stimulating things, the kind of boring tasks which are more productive, so much harder to do. Because even in that very small amount of time, you're taking your brain from being in productive mode to being in consumption mode. It's very easy to go from productive mode to consumption mode, but it's very difficult to go from consumption mode to productive mode. Doing the hard tasks that really get you ahead becomes so much harder after you become stimulated. I think this is becoming a problem, especially for the younger generations who are just growing up using this technology from a very young age. They just don't know what it's like to not be on technology because they've just been used to that. They've constantly been stimulated by these devices and just not being on them for a while just to be more productive, it seems almost impossible. Even most guys in my generation just don't know what it's like to not constantly be entertained. For a lot of guys, it's just weakened their baseline attention span and made boredom just seem unbearable. And it creates this huge problem because if you're so scared of being bored and you constantly have to be stimulated, it just makes it harder for you to enter that state of being really creative and having a lot of clarity from not constantly taking in information from these external sources. If you have some time to be with yourself and be with your own thoughts and actually think for a second, you can actually get a lot of stuff done. That's where a lot of your good insights come from. That's where a lot of the aha moments come from. But just because we don't allow ourselves to not be stimulated constantly, it becomes harder to do. I remember when I was younger and I'd get in trouble for something and I'd end up getting grounded from using technology for a week or 2 weeks or something. And even though it was really upsetting, I just really didn't like the idea of it. 1 or 2 days into it, I started to realize that I actually felt weirdly a lot better. My mental health just went up through the roof essentially. I felt a lot more clarity. I felt just better. My mind was clear. And the reason was I wasn't constantly being stimulated by these devices, so I had more time to detox my mind essentially. Even simple things like just sitting down and doing nothing felt more pleasurable. I could go on a walk and really enjoy the experience, just looking around at nature, just enjoying my mental health or whatever. In general, during those periods, I just felt more happier and more ideas came to me naturally. And the funny thing about it, even though I knew all these benefits came from doing this, as soon as I was ungrounded, I'd go straight back to using the technology. It's this weird addiction that we have to being stimulated nowadays. And I'm not going to make the argument oh, you should, never use technology, never use it again, just be off the grid or whatever, because I know that's not realistic for a lot of people. But what you can practically do is limit these things, limit the inputs and just the stimulation that you're taking from these things, because it'll dramatically not only improve your mental health, but also just improve your productivity, clarity, creativity, all of these different things, which are very important if you're trying to get ahead in life. So the first thing that I recommend is that you do the hardest tasks first thing in the morning. And as soon as you wake up, you just do those hard habits that will benefit you in the long term, but they just aren't as fun to do. They seem kind of boring in the moment. When you make this the first thing that you do, it gives you an advantage because straight in the morning, as soon as you wake up, for most people, this is the time where you have the most amount of energy. You haven't been, doing things throughout the day. So doing even a boring seeming task, it doesn't seem as boring because you don't have it to compare to something very stimulating. And that means for this period of time, you're listening to no music, you're not watching any content, even long form videos, you're not watching short form content, you're not scrolling on your phone or just doing anything like that. You're just doing those productive tasks. Those things for me will be things like recording this video, editing this video, reading books, meditating, working out, make sure I'm eating at a calorie surplus, just getting those things done before I get into or even consider doing those more stimulating things. You need to build that momentum early in the morning and get those tasks done before you even consider doing these like very stimulating things. Because if you think about it, if you were to reverse the order, it'd become way harder. Imagine you started your day just like doing these really stimulating things, like, you know, you're scrolling on TikTok and just like watching a whole bunch of short-term or short-form content or whatever, and then you switch to doing like the hard tasks like meditating, reading books, or like just doing whatever business task, whatever. It just becomes so much harder because now you're comparing it, like those hard activities, to the easy things you've just done, and now you kind of just don't want to do it. Like imagine the first thing that you do in the morning is like pull out your phone, go to Pornhub, and end up jacking off and ejaculating everywhere. If you do that, what's going to happen, because you've been so stimulated by that thing, now doing any other like hard task is going to be so much harder for you because you've been overstimulated first thing in the morning. Now doing those things in comparison, it's going to be like, oh, I don't want to do this. So now the only things you're really going to be able to do mentally, because like you've already been so stimulated, is do those like short-term things, that like those instant gratification activities, like just like eating a whole bunch of junk food or watching short form content, or just like doing the things that are really low barrier, that are easy to do essentially. If instead the first thing that you do as soon as you wake up is do those harder tasks, and then maybe you go into those like instant gratification things, not that you should be doing those instant gratification activities anyway, but at the very least, if you're going to do them anyway, let's like do it at the end of the day. At least you've got the benefit that you've actually done the hard work, and you've got that benefit rather than just like ruining your whole day. Now, if you're trying to get yourself to stop doing these low value activities, these things that really fry your brain, just like overstimulate yourself, it's far more effective to change your environment rather than relying strictly on your willpower. You can imagine two guys who are trying to get into shape and they're kind of out of shape right now. If you put one guy into an environment where all that he's surrounded by is these candies, junk food, and whatever, and like that's the thing in his immediate environment, it's going to be much harder for him to actually get in shape and like do the right things, because he's constantly surrounded by these like cues that essentially just encourage him to do those bad things. But if you put that guy into a different environment where the only thing that's around him is like these really healthy foods, he has a gym right next to him, just like all of this like good equipment or whatever, it's going to be so much easier for him to actually like follow through with those things and like get healthier, get more into shape, because his environment is set up in a way that makes it easier for him to do this. So practically what you end up doing, you set up your environments so it's easier for you to follow through and do those hard tasks first rather than engaging in those like short form things. Practically how I ended up doing this, and a long time ago, I ended up just deleting TikTok, deleting Instagram. I don't even have the YouTube app on my phone, because I know if I have these apps on my phone, I'm going to be so much more prone to just like scrolling and just like wasting a whole bunch of time. What I do, like if I absolutely need to get on these apps or just do something with it, I just use Safari instead of using the native app, because if I'm on Safari or like on a web page, it's just less stimulating. It's not as optimized to like hold like my attention the whole day. So by changing my phone in this way, it just makes it harder for me to be trapped in that consumption mode. I've even tried things like setting a color filter on my phone so it's just black and white instead of having a whole bunch of colors, because the thing is, if it's only black and white, it's just less stimulating. You're less likely to be on it the whole time. I know it kind of sounds weird, but it's a small little change that you can make in the environment, which makes it so much easier for you to not get stuck in that trap. Another thing you can do is turn off all the notifications on your phone. It's something that I did a while ago, and it's been such a huge game changer for me. And it's crazy when I see other people who have all these notifications going off, and I can tell why they're not as productive as they could be. Because when you have these notifications and you're trying to like work on something, even that small lapse in attention, even if you hear the ding go off, it just saps away so much of your attention and makes it so hard to get back into the flow state. So practically, you turn off all the notifications. A lot of people get scared of this, like, what if something happens and it's important? The thing is, it's never that important. Like, even if I get a text message or a phone call for someone, it's never actually that important. And if that person is that important, and I think it's going to be a huge issue or whatever, like, say you're a parent or something and you have a child and you really do want them to or you really do want to be in contact with them just in case anything happens, okay, set it up on your phone so you can get calls from them. So if it really is important, that call comes to you. But for most guys watching my content, that's not the case for them. You can literally turn off all the notifications, including phone calls from a lot of people, and it's not going to be a big issue. You can call them back once you have the free time. Unless somebody's well-being is dependent on you being able to answer the call right then and there, turn off all the notifications. You shouldn't be accessible to anyone during those productive hours. Another thing I did to change my environment, which made it much easier for me to stop stimulating myself, especially when it came to playing video games, is I had a PS4, but I ended up just selling it because I really just didn't want to play video games at that point, because I was realizing how much attention and this energy it was taking away from me, just being stuck playing these video games. But at the time, I still had a PC, a gaming PC, and I would use it mainly because I wanted to do these productive things, just having a PC. But occasionally I would relapse on playing video games because, it was a gaming PC. That was the original purpose of having it in the first place. So I'd just spend some time or a few hours playing video games, and, stimulated me, took a lot of my productive hours away from me. What I ended up doing though was getting an office laptop, which wasn't a gaming laptop or anything. It was just literally just an office laptop that would help me to get some school tasks done or whatever. I just didn't want to be stuck to one location when I was doing my work. I wanted to be able to travel and just go to different places and just be on my laptop, still get productive stuff done. But I realized it's actually a really big benefit to have this laptop, because you know what happened? With this laptop, I wasn't able to play video games. It just became really inconvenient to play these games, essentially just having the mouse pad, or I don't know what you call it, but it just made it hard to play video games. The specs just didn't align, so I couldn't play a lot of these video games that I used to play with this kind of shitty laptop. But that was actually a great thing for me, because it made it harder for me to relapse and play these video games and get distracted by these things. So I actually just completely got rid of that PC, and now I exclusively use this laptop, because it's just harder for me to actually go and play those video games, because I really can't play video games with this laptop. If you can just make it even a little bit harder for you to follow through doing those things, it will make your life so much easier, because you're not going to have to rely completely on your willpower. There will be some cases where you do have to rely on your willpower. For example, just because I work on a laptop or a phone or whatever, there obviously is the option to go and search up a website or re-download some of the apps or whatever, but use your willpower as a last resort, not as the front line, because your willpower, it definitely does it definitely does end up getting depleted. So the last point that I want to make is that if you're going to stimulate yourself, at the very least, do it at the end of the day. I'm not some perfect guy. I can't get myself to completely cut out these technologies. If I'm in some environments, or if I'm just really bored enough, or it's been a long enough time, I'm just being aware, I'm probably going to relapse. I'm probably going to go back to using these technology, scrolling and just doing all of these unproductive things. But basically, if you can just delegate that to the very end of the day, where it doesn't matter that much because you've already got all your important work done, that's going to serve you so much better than just doing that the first thing in the day and, essentially just wasting your entire day just because you've done this one very stimulating thing. If you're gonna listen to all this stimulating music, scroll a whole bunch of content, and just do a whole bunch of these things, just do it at the very end of the day where it doesn't matter as much. That's just gonna serve you so much better. And the nice thing about this is that if you do it at the end of the day, after you're done with that, you end up going to sleep, your brain has a time to reset and refresh itself. So now when you wake up, you're able to do those hard tasks again and not feel so bogged down because you've done all that stimulating stuff. But again, if you do all that stimulating stuff first thing in the morning, you're just going to be sabotaging yourself. So basically the key point that I want to make in this video, if you're trying to be more productive and you've been having trouble with your motivation or just your ability to follow through, and you're doing these small stimulating things, even if it's just for 5 minutes, you're listening to this very stimulating music or watching some content or whatever, completely just delegate that to the very end of the day. Don't do it during your productive hours. If you have to, while you're waiting on something to load or something, just focus on your breathing or go for a walk. Do something that's not as stimulating. And if you're going to do those things at all, do it at the very end of the day. Don't do it during your productive hours, because I'm telling you, because I've made this mistake so many times. I even literally did it yesterday. If you do these things, it's just becomes so much harder for you to actually follow through with the disciplines and the habits that you've committed to yourself to that are actually going to get you ahead in life. Cut off the notifications, remove all the entertainment apps. Do your deep work first thing in the morning. Do the hard work first before you get into anything else. Stop overstimulating yourself so you can build the life that you actually want. You can join our Discord group if you want to surround yourself with other men who are leveling up. But remember, if you want your life to change for the better, it starts with you.